Nobody ever notices the quiet ones until they speak. Elizabeth Harper's laughter echoed across the polished dining room, sharp and deliberate, a sound that seemed to command the space as the chandelier lights bounced off the crystal glasses, casting tiny prisms on the marble floor. Jasmine Carter moved with silent precision, balancing plates and silverware, her eyes calm, unshaken by the subtle glances and whispered comments from the guests who assumed her role was invisible. The table was set for opulence. 20 high-profile investors, gleaming cutlery, and a menu designed to impress even the most discerning palates. Elizabeth, seated at the head, radiated authority, her tailored cream suit and diamond cuff bracelet speaking of wealth and influence. She smiled at her guests, but it was a smile layered with arrogance, a reminder that power resided in her and nowhere else in the room. Jasmine approached with a tray of delicate appetizers, her skin glowing under the warm light, her movements fluid and precise. Yet each step seemed measured, as though she knew the unseen eyes on her would soon see more than they expected. A guest murmured something about foreign markets, another joked about business etiquette in Japan, and Elizabeth tilted her head, a smirk playing on her lips as she glanced at Jasmine, as if testing the invisible boundary she thought existed between the two of them. The air grew tense, a subtle tightening around the room's edges, as Jasmine paused by Elizabeth's side, listening. She caught every word, every mispronunciation, every slight hesitation of the diners who prided themselves on sophistication. Then came the moment. A guest stumbled over a phrase in Japanese, his accent clumsy, and the room collectively stiffened, expecting an awkward correction or silence. Jasmine's eyes flickered, her lips curved into the faintest knowing smile. She leaned forward, voice smooth and confident, articulating each word in flawless Japanese, translating complex business concepts effortlessly, and the room fell silent. Every head turned. Elizabeth's jaw tightened imperceptibly, her eyes widening, and a ripple of murmurs swept through the diners. The quiet waitress, the one they had underestimated, had flipped the script, showing brilliance hidden in plain sight. Jasmine straightened, calm, poised, offering the next course with the same unassuming elegance, while Elizabeth's expression softened just slightly, an acknowledgement forming in her gaze that intelligence and composure could command respect beyond wealth. The clinking of glasses, the low hum of conversation, even the flicker of candlelight seemed to pause as the realization settled. The rules of power were shifting subtly in this room, and the one they had ignored all evening now held their attention completely. Every movement Jasmine made spoke of hidden depth, every glance carried silent authority, and as Elizabeth leaned back, her eyes never leaving the waitress, the audience could sense the unfolding story, a story where the underestimated could astonish, where the quiet brilliance of a single individual could challenge the assumptions of an entire room, and the night was just beginning. The guests were still murmuring quietly, their attention lingering on Jasmine Carter as she moved with deliberate calm, setting the next plates down without a trace of hesitation, while Elizabeth Harper watched from her seat, her mind racing as she realized that intelligence could not be bought or displayed with wealth alone. The room was filled with a soft, ambient glow from the candles, each flicker reflecting off the polished silverware, and the subtle clatter of cutlery seemed louder now against the hush that had settled over the table. Elizabeth leaned slightly forward, her eyes narrowing, studying Jasmine with a mixture of curiosity and reluctant admiration, trying to gauge whether this brilliance was a fleeting moment or a deeper reservoir waiting to be revealed. Jasmine, unbothered, continued her work, her movements graceful, precise, almost choreographed, yet every step carried a quiet strength that spoke louder than words, a presence that slowly commanded respect without a single assertion of power. The guests, still recovering from the surprise of her Japanese, began to shift in their seats, exchanging glances that acknowledged the skill they had just witnessed, and whispers of speculation filled the air as they tried to reconcile the image of a waitress with the unexpected genius she had just displayed. Elizabeth's inner dialogue was a storm of conflicting thoughts, the usual certainty she held as a sin, giving way to a rare uncertainty, as she contemplated the possibility that she had underestimated someone entirely based on appearance and title. Jasmine approached a tall, sleek tray with desserts, balancing it effortlessly, and placed each dessert carefully in front of the guests, her eyes meeting each one with a composed, quiet confidence that drew the attention of everyone present, not with arrogance, but with the understated power of mastery. Elizabeth caught a glimpse of her own reflection in the polished surface of the table, juxtaposed with Jasmine's poised figure, and the contrast was stark, highlighting that presence and intelligence were not solely the domain of wealth and status. A young investor leaned toward another, whispering, and Elizabeth heard snippets of words that acknowledged the surprise, the admiration, and the questions about what else this seemingly ordinary waitress could reveal, stirring a curiosity that Elizabeth had rarely felt. Jasmine's calm demeanor and focused attention on the details of the service created a rhythm in the room that subtly shifted the atmosphere from tension to intrigue. As each guest began to anticipate what the next moment might bring, the anticipation electric and unspoken. Elizabeth realized that the true measure of impact lay not in commanding a room with money or authority, but in the ability to inspire awe and thought through skill and presence. And as she observed Jasmine, a flicker of humility and recognition passed through her expression, marking the first real shift in her understanding of power and value. The soft hum of conversation began to resume, but it was different now, tinted with newfound respect, the narrative of the evening subtly rewritten by Jasmine's quiet brilliance, leaving Elizabeth to consider what other layers remained hidden beneath the calm, composed exterior of the woman who had just taught an entire room a lesson in perception, intellect, and the subtle yet undeniable force of understated talent. Jasmine Carter moved through the room with an effortless grace, her calm demeanor creating a rhythm that subtly shifted the atmosphere from one of tension to quiet fascination, each gesture deliberate yet unassuming as she refilled glasses and adjusted plates, never breaking her composed exterior. Elizabeth Harper remained seated, her posture slightly straighter now, observing every movement with a growing awareness that power and influence were not solely defined by wealth or title, and that there was an unspoken force in skill, presence, and quiet intelligence that commanded attention. The soft lighting from the chandelier highlighted the contrast between Elizabeth's calculated authority and Jasmine's understated brilliance, casting shadows that seemed to dance along the walls and floor, marking the room with the subtle energy of transformation. Guests who had been previously distracted by social posturing now leaned forward, curiosity evident in their eyes as they watched Jasmine navigate the complex dance of service, all the while demonstrating a mastery of timing, precision, and understanding that went far beyond the expectations of a waitress. A conversation erupted nearby about international markets, the words rolling over the table like waves, and Jasmine, with her steady gaze and impeccable understanding, responded fluently in Japanese, translating nuances and context that left even the most seasoned investors momentarily speechless. Elizabeth's mind raced, piecing together the implications of this display. A person with no formal title commanding respect and attention through sheer intellect and composure, challenging the traditional hierarchy of the room. The clinking of silverware and the hum of whispered speculation filled the space as Jasmine continued her work, serving desserts with exacting care, engaging with each guest with the subtle power of competence and confidence, never seeking to dominate, yet naturally drawing respect. Elizabeth caught herself studying the fine details of Jasmine's movements, noting the patience, precision, and calm that allowed her to command influence without a word of authority, a reminder that true leadership often manifests quietly, through skill and presence rather than assertion. The energy in the room shifted gradually, an invisible but palpable current running through the guests, each recognizing the value of observation, attentiveness, and hidden talent. The walls of assumption and bias gently crumbling under the weight of Jasmine's quiet brilliance. Elizabeth's reflection in the polished surface of the table revealed a mixture of surprise, contemplation, and emerging respect, as she considered what it meant to lead with humility and acknowledge merit in unexpected places, the lesson pressing gently but firmly against her awareness. Jasmine, sensing the subtle change, maintained her composed elegance, a serene smile hinting at awareness of the impact she had made, yet she carried herself with no need for acknowledgement, her power rooted in presence and mastery. The night continued, each interaction reinforcing the shift in perception. The once dismissed waitress now central to the evening's narrative, her intelligence and composure setting a new tone for the room, leaving Elizabeth and the guests to reconsider the meaning of influence, respect, and the quiet yet undeniable force of unrecognized genius. Jasmine Carter approached the next table with a serene focus, her posture straight, movements precise, every detail attended to as though she were orchestrating an intricate dance of service that no one had anticipated. Elizabeth Harper's gaze followed her, a mixture of intrigue and unspoken admiration growing with each step as she began to see how competence and composure could command more attention than opulence or status. The soft light of the chandelier illuminated the polished surfaces of the table, reflecting the gentle hum of conversation and the occasional clink of silverware. Yet the energy in the room had subtly shifted, a quiet anticipation settling over the guests as they observed Jasmine navigate the dinner with an effortless mastery that made every action seem purposeful. A discussion about a recent international deal broke out nearby, and Jasmine paused to listen, absorbing the context before responding flawlessly in Japanese, translating technical nuances with clarity and confidence, drawing appreciative nods from the investors, and leaving Elizabeth momentarily speechless. The realization dawned slowly on Elizabeth that the true measure of influence was not in asserting authority or flaunting wealth, but in demonstrating skill, intelligence, and the quiet power of presence. And as she watched Jasmine continue her service with unwavering composure, a subtle shift occurred in her own demeanor, a softening of the rigid boundaries she had maintained between herself and those she considered beneath her. Guests began to engage differently, leaning in to witness the quiet brilliance of someone they had underestimated, their attention now fixed on Jasmine, whose calm confidence radiated a magnetic authority, commanding respect without a single boast or display of superiority. Elizabeth reflected on the contrast between her own carefully curated image of power and Jasmine's understated competence, recognizing that true leadership and influence could emerge from unexpected places, reshaping perceptions and expectations. Jasmine's serene smile and steady hands conveyed a mastery that transcended the conventional hierarchies of the room. The elegance of her service paired with intellectual acumen, creating a quiet force that subtly rewrote the evening's narrative. The gentle rhythm of plates being set and glasses refilled punctuated the growing awareness among the guests, an unspoken acknowledgement of talent, skill, and poise that demanded attention without demanding acknowledgement. Elizabeth observed, her thoughts a whirl of admiration, reflection, and a newfound understanding that respect and authority were earned not through display alone, but through consistent demonstration of capability and character. As Jasmine completed her task at the table, placing the final dessert with meticulous care, the room seemed to hold its breath, the shift in energy undeniable, every guest acutely aware that they were witnessing the unfolding of something rare, a display of quiet genius that challenged assumptions, inspired reconsideration, and promised that the evening had only just begun, with lessons in perception, intellect, and understated power continuing to ripple through the room. Jasmine Carter moved with steady precision toward the far end of the dining room, her calm presence drawing the attention of the guests who had begun to see her not as a mere server, but as someone whose quiet intelligence reshaped the evening. Elizabeth Harper observed every motion, her eyes reflecting a mixture of surprise and respect as she realized that the measures of influence and competence could extend beyond titles and wealth, that skill, patience, and insight could command the room in ways she had not anticipated. The soft glow from the chandeliers cast gentle light over polished table surfaces, highlighting the intricate details of the settings as Jasmine carefully arranged the final appetizers, her hands steady, her posture upright, and each movement deliberate yet graceful. Conversations resumed, but they carried a new tone, a curiosity that spread like a gentle current across the tables, as guests exchanged glances and whispered questions about the remarkable composure and knowledge displayed by someone they had initially dismissed. Jasmine paused at a discussion about complex financial strategies, listening intently before explaining in fluent Japanese with precision and clarity, translating nuances that had gone unnoticed, her voice calm, yet commanding, holding the attention of everyone present without a hint of pride or boastfulness. Elizabeth, seated with her hands lightly folded on the table, felt a subtle shift in the dynamics of the room, an acknowledgement forming within her that leadership and respect could emerge from the most unexpected sources, a lesson unfolding quietly before her eyes. Guests leaned forward, their expressions a mixture of admiration and surprise, recognizing that Jasmine's brilliance was not performative but inherent, expressed through poise, focus, and the ability to engage with both people and situations with a rare finesse. The room itself seemed to adopt a new energy, the hum of low conversation and soft laughter now tinged with appreciation and contemplation, the once dismissed waitress now central to the narrative of the evening, her every gesture reinforcing the realization that presence, intellect, and subtle authority were more powerful than outward appearances alone. Elizabeth's gaze softened, an almost imperceptible nod forming as she considered the lessons imparted silently by Jasmine's actions, the contrast between her own calculated influence and the natural command exhibited by Jasmine highlighting the nuances of power, respect, and recognition. The air carried a quiet intensity, the anticipation of what Jasmine might reveal, next drawing attention without effort, her serene composure and understated elegance continuing to captivate, demonstrating that genuine capability could inspire change and reflection. Each course she delivered, each interaction she facilitated, reinforced the emerging understanding among the guests that intelligence and professionalism could redefine perceptions, and Elizabeth, witnessing it all, began to reconsider the true measures of leadership, influence, and the remarkable impact of quiet brilliance. Jasmine Carter approached the central table with the same composed focus, her movements fluid, every gesture intentional as she arranged the final course with an elegance that commanded attention without a single word of assertion, and Elizabeth Harper watched from her seat, a subtle shift in her expression betraying the dawning realization that influence and respect could be earned through mastery and presence rather than wealth or title alone. The room was bathed in the warm glow of the chandeliers, each flicker reflecting off the polished silverware and crystal glasses, the soft hum of conversation punctuated by quiet gasps and whispers of admiration as the guests absorbed Jasmine's unassuming display of brilliance. A discussion about emerging international markets arose, the topic complex and nuanced, and Jasmine, listening intently, responded in flawless Japanese, translating intricate details with clarity and precision that left the investors momentarily silent, their previous assumptions about her role overturned in an instant. Elizabeth's thoughts swirled, her awareness sharpened as she recognized the subtle authority in Jasmine's composed manner, the way she commanded the room not through words or titles, but through confidence, skill, and attentiveness that drew attention naturally. Guests shifted in their seats, leaning slightly forward, exchanging glances that acknowledged the remarkable competence they were witnessing, the quiet intelligence and professionalism of Jasmine capturing their focus and reshaping the social dynamic entirely. Elizabeth's hands rested lightly on the table as she considered the contrast between her own cultivated influence and the effortless command exhibited by Jasmine, realizing that genuine respect could emerge in unexpected forms, a lesson unfolding in real time as she observed the calm, yet impactful presence of the waitress who had become the center of attention. Jasmine continued her work with serene precision, every action deliberate yet subtle, guiding the evening with an understated elegance that made each interaction meaningful and each task executed flawlessly, reinforcing the impression of intelligence and capability. Without overt display, the gentle rhythm of service combined with her quiet confidence created a magnetic pull, drawing the guests' curiosity and respect organically, while Elizabeth's eyes lingered on her, contemplating the nature of true leadership, insight, and the capacity to inspire without dominance. Conversations resumed around the room, but they were now shaded with the recognition of talent, poise, and insight, the narrative of the evening shifting subtly as each guest acknowledged the brilliance that had emerged from someone they had initially underestimated. Jasmine's composed smile and graceful presence continued to influence the flow of the evening, the the room itself absorbing her energy, the once dismissed waitress now subtly redefining the parameters of authority and admiration, and Elizabeth, observing it all, felt a rare sense of reflection and awakening, realizing that influence, respect, and power could manifest in the quietest yet most impactful ways, a lesson that would resonate far beyond the confines of this elegant dinner. Jasmine Carter approached Elizabeth Harper's table with a quiet confidence, her steps measured and deliberate, every gesture radiating precision and calm as she presented the final course, the subtle aroma of dessert filling the elegant dining room and mingling with the soft glow of chandeliers above. Elizabeth's eyes followed her every movement, a mixture of awe and reflection crossing her features as she observed how effortlessly Jasmine commanded the attention of everyone present without a word of assertion, her presence alone reshaping the dynamics of the room. Guests leaned forward in their chairs, captivated not only by Jasmine's skill and composure, but also by the unexpected intelligence that had emerged so naturally in the midst of the evening, their whispered comments carrying admiration and curiosity as they exchanged glances, recognizing that this was no ordinary server, but someone whose quiet brilliance demanded recognition. A discussion about an upcoming international project arose, and Jasmine listened attentively, her focus absolute, before offering a precise explanation in fluent Japanese, translating complex business terminology with clarity and authority, leaving the room in stunned silence and further solidifying the shift in perception about her role and capabilities. Elizabeth's hands rested lightly on the polished surface of the table, her posture subtly changed as she considered the implications of what she had witnessed, a deep understanding dawning that influence and respect could be commanded through mastery and intellect rather than mere position or wealth, and that's sometimes the quietest. Individuals held the most profound power. Jasmine moved gracefully from table to table, her actions purposeful yet understated, her serene expression never wavering, demonstrating that true competence and composure were more impactful than ostentation or arrogance, and the rhythm of her movements seemed to set the pace for the entire room, each guest watching in anticipation of the next subtle demonstration of skill or insight. Elizabeth's gaze softened, a flicker of humility and recognition appearing as she reflected on her previous assumptions and the lesson unfolding before her eyes, realizing that leadership and respect were not granted automatically, but observed and earned through consistent demonstration of ability, character, and poise. The soft hum of conversation resumed, now tinged with a new appreciation, each interaction carrying a weight of thoughtfulness and awareness of the remarkable display they had just witnessed, the once dismissed waitress now subtly shaping the narrative and energy of the evening. Jasmine's calm presence and understated brilliance continued to captivate the room, her every action reinforcing the understanding that true intelligence and influence could emerge quietly, unexpectedly, yet profoundly, leaving Elizabeth and the guests with a sense of reflection and anticipation for what further insights and revelations the evening might still hold, the transformative energy lingering in the air long after each course had been served. Jasmine Carter approached the final guests with a serene focus, her calm movements orchestrating the flow of the dinner with effortless grace, each gesture deliberate, precise, and measured, reflecting an intelligence and composure that subtly commanded the attention of everyone in the room. Elizabeth Harper observed from her seat, her eyes tracing every motion, the usual certainty she carried as a sin, giving way to a quiet astonishment as she recognized that true authority could emerge without overt assertion or wealth, that mastery, confidence, and presence alone could shape perception and influence. The chandelier lights glimmered across the polished silverware and glass, casting reflections that danced over the table surfaces, the soft hum of conversation and low murmurs punctuating the rhythm of the evening, now tinged with a new respect for Jasmine's understated brilliance. As Jasmine engaged briefly with a discussion about international strategies, her flawless Japanese and clear articulation conveyed not only knowledge but the ability to translate complex ideas seamlessly, leaving the guests impressed and Elizabeth momentarily silent, reflecting on the unexpected depth and talent of the woman she had once underestimated. Each plate Jasmine placed, Each careful adjustment she made to the settings reinforced her quiet dominance over the room, not through words or displays, but through skill, attentiveness, and an unshakable calm that made every action resonate with significance. Elizabeth's posture shifted subtly, her mind absorbing the lesson unfolding before her, an understanding forming that influence, respect, and power could be expressed through subtle mastery and composed confidence, often unnoticed until revealed through action and presence. Guests continued to watch, leaning in with curiosity and admiration, the soft energy of the room changing with each precise movement Jasmine made, a magnetic aura forming that captured attention naturally, effortlessly, and completely. The dialogue around the tables resumed, but it now carried a tone of contemplation and reflection, the whispers acknowledging the surprising capabilities of someone who had been overlooked, a silent admiration spreading across the dining room like a gentle current. Jasmine's calm smile and composed demeanor provided a steady anchor for the evening, every action a lesson in poise, skill, and the understated impact of intelligence, leaving the guests with a sense of awe and Elizabeth with a deepened awareness of how appearances could be deceiving and mastery could redefine the dynamics of power. The room's atmosphere shifted fully, the once dismissed waitress now central to the narrative, influencing not only the conversation but the perception of each person present, and Elizabeth, absorbing every detail, felt the quiet yet undeniable power of Jasmine's presence, a transformative force that would linger long after the evening concluded, leaving everyone in anticipation of what further insights or demonstrations of brilliance might yet unfold before the night ended. Jasmine Carter completed her rounds with the same composed elegance that had defined the evening, her calm presence leaving a lasting impression on every guest, each action deliberate, precise, and filled with quiet authority that commanded attention without a single word of overt assertion. Elizabeth Harper observed her from across the room, her posture relaxed but her mind alert, reflecting on the lessons subtly imparted by Jasmine's mastery, a deep awareness settling that influence, respect, and recognition could be earned through skill, intelligence, and calm presence rather than position or wealth alone. The chandeliers cast a warm glow over the polished surfaces of the tables, each reflection amplifying the delicate balance between the grandeur of the setting and the understated brilliance of Jasmine's service, while the soft hum of conversation carried murmurs of admiration, speculation, and renewed curiosity about the depth of talent present in someone previously overlooked. As Jasmine paused by a guest struggling with a translation in Japanese, she offered clear, precise guidance, her fluency and understanding transforming a moment of confusion into clarity and engagement, further solidifying the respect she had garnered throughout the evening. Elizabeth's hands rested lightly on the table, her gaze fixed, processing the quiet yet profound shift in the room's dynamics, realizing that leadership and influence were demonstrated through consistency, insight, and composure rather than flamboyance or overt displays of authority. The guests, leaning slightly forward, absorbed every movement and word, captivated not by spectacle but by the subtle power of competence and intellect that radiated from Jasmine, her serene confidence creating a magnetic force that altered perceptions and rewrote assumptions. Each interaction, each gesture, reinforced the emerging understanding that talent could flourish unnoticed and that those who underestimated others could learn invaluable lessons in respect, perception, and human capability. Elizabeth reflected on the contrast between her own carefully cultivated authority and the natural command Jasmine exuded, understanding that humility and recognition of skill could transform not only how one was perceived, but also the energy and narrative of a room, the once dismissed waitress now central to the evening's unfolding story. Jasmine continued her work with unwavering focus, her calm smile hinting at awareness of her impact, while maintaining a graceful distance that invited admiration without ostentation, demonstrating the subtle yet undeniable power of presence, mastery, and intelligence. The ambient energy in the room shifted fully, conversation and attention now harmonized around the quiet brilliance of Jasmine, leaving Elizabeth and the guests with a sense of reflection, curiosity, and anticipation, a recognition that the evening had been transformed not by wealth or status, but by insight, skill, and the understated force of one individual's competence, leaving an enduring impression that would resonate well beyond the confines of the dining room.